Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome to another edition of the Zero AD replay analysis. So this is a game between myself, Wycombe, versus Mitzel, who, although he's got no rating on the game, he's actually a very good player. So that we will see. So it's certainly quite an even match to a certain point, and then it goes as all games do, and one person's the winner, one person's the loser. So he starts off as the Britons. He sends 4 women off to go and collect some berries. His horseman, as you'd expect, goes and gathers the chickens and sends his men off to build a storehouse. And at the same time, he's going to get 5 women who are going to come up here and cut some wood. I have got an additional horseman to deal with the chickens, to collect those as quickly as possible, but initially not aware if there's any additional animals to hunt, although I can see there are a few here. So because of that, and I'll just turn the speed up ever so slightly to get through the opening a bit more quickly, send a group of women off to chop wood, defended by a spearman and a javelineer. I'm playing as Cilicids or Cilicids, whichever way it's pronounced, by the way. And this is my standard opening, is that I would, with them, produce the farmstead, produce the storehouse, and then produce a house right by this wood line, if the wood line is away from the town centre, because that way, if an attack comes from horses, you can get the women to safety, which is always a bonus. So now, having collected all the chickens and noticed that there's more animals to be hunted, I've started to produce cavalry skirmishers who have a javelin and will be useful to launch raids on the opponent's base. So what I'll do is use them to, with their ability to collect food more quickly than women on the berry bushes or through farms, like to keep producing more and more horses, and they can collect more and more of the meat, and that will lead to me also producing a good fighting force quite quickly. So my opponent has got 9 women collecting berries. He hasn't actually built the farmstead, so he's not got the berry picking bonus, but he's relying on women to collect his fruit early on, and he's also got 17 women who are on wood. He's realizing that the berries are going to run out. He's quite cleverly got his men to produce the farms, which means that the women can just, once those are finished completely, just go straight on to the farms. It's quite a nice little tactic there. Not so sure about having the houses all the way at the back here. They're not actually serving any purpose in terms of being used for a place for people to be defended, so these ones coming at the front will be more useful. But if you imagine, I've got at this stage 12 cavalry. If they were to come round the front here, they would absolutely massacre these women. And so actually, with it approaching 4 minutes, if you can get to a dozen cavalry in under 3 minutes, then you've got a good chance of causing real damage. So this looks like my first raid is coming up. Strangely, it will actually be normally it makes sense to go in round the sides, because most people would actually try and put their weaker units, so the women that can't really defend themselves, to the side, and that hasn't happened in this instance. So I'm just going to go in. He's instantly got his women to safety, or tried to. His cavalry, well, I don't know how many he had early on, but they're in pretty serious trouble. So he's still 3 population ahead of me, but he has 2 cavalry in the base, and the women have just, now what I should be doing here is coming back round from a different angle, and it looks like that may be what's going to happen. It would be very sensible to wait for him to pull the people back out, get back to thinking that everything's going swimmingly, and then start attacking again. So the women that were gathering the food, they're now undefended, and like I said earlier, if you're in this kind of position with all your women out the front, chances are they're going to get killed. So he's now 7 people behind, and I decide not to take the storehouse, and he's building a barracks. Looking at things, I could probably actually have stopped that barracks being produced, but a number of these are not all that well now, so they're a bit injured, so they've gone back to heal, and I've carried on producing. What's important if you are doing those kind of raids, it is incredibly important that you don't just leave everything as it was. So what you would have noticed, whenever I go and send off on a raid, I always produce something like another 6 women or a load of spearmen or whatever, and send them to go and do something. So what I may have done, because I always use the build things in groups of 2, so what I could have done, for instance, was set someone to say, one of the women that's already out, tell them to build 2 fields, leave those fields building, and then just set the town centre with 10 women to go and be centred on one of those fields. They'll pop out upon training, and then they will instantly go and build the field, so you're not like doing nothing with that time. So it's important to try and micromanage the troops or all of your resources, so that that time is not dead time. And if you can do that, then you can absolutely overrun your opponent. So if we look at this stage, he's built 2 barracks very early, which is quite interesting to do that so early, because that gives you 3 production points. And actually, if you look, he's not producing from any of them because he doesn't have sufficient wood. So why he spent all of that wood, if you imagine that's 300 wood that he spent on a barracks, could have been used to produce another 6 what are they called, 6 spearmen who could be out here chopping this wood, or could be over here chopping this wood, or whatever. They could be doing something, but he's struggling with that. And if we look, because of that, he's 10 population behind and trying to make up that difference. My base at this stage, I feel pretty secure. The women here have got 5 farms. Do I have the 25 women to do? I've got 23 women, so they're virtually at the maximum. I've got the farming upgrade that you get at level 1. I'm just sending these guys off, possibly to do. Well, they're looking around the map, I think, to find more food, and in fact, that is what they are doing. Because if they were to come out here, they would find there are now 8 horsemen opposing them. I mean, I'm still, I don't think I can actually grab them all because they're moving in opposite directions, but I'm still on 12, so I've not actually produced any more horses because there's not the hunt kind of to justify it. So my 1 barracks here, its whole purpose is to keep producing troops now who, if we look, not only do the soldier troops have slightly higher gather rates, but obviously they can defend themselves. So if he were to send 12 cavalry, like I did earlier, now these guys would be more than happy with that and would comfortably defend themselves, and even more now that there are 11 spearmen. Those spearmen are absolute nightmare for cavalry. They get 3 times bonus on their attack. They have almost as much health. They will, if they can get close to the cavalry, will absolutely destroy them. So he's got his 8 cavalry here. I've not done a great job with those. These ones have seemed to it looks like they probably gathered something and then haven't bothered to go and gather any more. But with his horsemen out, he's really still. He's only got 36. I mean, everything back in the base is women. So other than the cavalry, he is incredibly prone. So that said, he got to the town phase significantly more quickly than I did, and it looks very much like the the basis of his economy is simply to create as many women as possible, and would get a phenomenal amount of food. I mean, the normal amount of fields that you would need for a sort of, I think this is a 250 pop, yeah, 250 pop game is probably 8, and that would be at phase 3. This is, yeah, he's got 7 at this early stage, and he's just trying to build those up. So if we look now at population sizes, I'm 16 clear of him, and not just that, I've got soldiers as well. So here come another 12 javelineers. It's a very good start for me. That initial launch with the cavalry has made a real difference. That said, I've just housed myself, so he is closing the gap because I haven't yet noticed, and now I try and get a load of people to build a house as quickly as possible. One of the best things that you can do in this stage, looking at that, I've also started producing the horse archers. If you do house yourself, so you looked previously though, it said I had 87 87 troops out of 90. What I've done is, okay, I'm just, while the house is being built, going to at least produce someone. So I went down, stopped trying to produce 4 people and went instead to producing 3, which was sufficient to get it there, and that way you're at least not wasting that time. So my second barracks is up here. That's been used because, again, you see the extra territory that gives. That's really secured this area. So now suddenly this wood line is within range. That's absolutely one of the things that I could be I'm now able to secure from myself. I've got my 12 cavalry here. I've got 6 archer cavalry who have a much longer range than the javelineer cavalry that I produced earlier, and I'm also getting some spearmen. So spearmen are good on a defensive line because they can also attack rams, which you quite often find. It can, particularly with the Britons, they'll just come barging through, and if you are in one of those civilizations that doesn't have rams, and you haven't got swordsmen available, I think this may be, well, no, it's a storehouse to get this stone, but what I would be looking to do is build one of their additional what are they called, a military colony. So because, oh no, it's not a military no, it is, sorry, yeah, so a military colony has swordsmen in it, and then put the swordsmen in barracks or in towers nearby the base, and that defends you against rams, because it can be all too easy to like end up being undone by just 2 or 3 rams, and it's the most frustrating thing you can imagine. Well, I'm sure if you've played this game, then you've probably been there at some stage. So I'm still, yeah, I'm 8 population ahead at this stage, and I'm just sending in my cavalry to have another go at his women out here, so they should all be killed very shortly. So that's the end of these guys, and that's the danger of not actually having any soldiers there. So he's even using women for mining, which is not advisable because it doesn't they don't mine anywhere near the rate that soldiers do. So you can see here they gather at 0.3 for both stone and metal, whereas if we find these guys wherever they are, I can't actually see them. That's bizarre. Where? Okay, I don't know where his guys there have gone, but if we take one of my guys here, this one, you can see they gather at twice the rate, and these guys, they also gather at twice the rate. So you have to have twice as many people on, basically, to do that. So there's too many negatives for it. So you can see now his tactic is he's just going to produce a large amount of cavalry. He's got another 4 and another 4 there, so he's got a huge amount of cavalry on the way, and he's just pulling, well, he's got 23 already there, and I have a group of 10 here and a group of 12 here, so that's That's two very similar amounts. He sends off some extra people. I just sent my infantry over as well because they were going to actually build a military colony out here to try and give us some additional territory. And I mean, these 12 will make light work of these 4, and it's going to be a case of 21 plays 12. So is he going to do it? Oh, wait, they're coming down. It's going to be tight, but he's going to win that thing, and he is just continuing to build as many raiding cavalry as he can. I can safely duck back here because I've actually got solid defences. These guys, they won't be able to do very much because my infantry are far too strong for them, so you just need to ring the bell, and actually there's every chance that they will be absolutely massacred and completely wiped out, and these two are going to be caught. And so yeah, he's turned he had some new cavalry coming and he's turned those back, and he's building another couple of barracks with the he's hoping that they can win this attack, but again he's got them, they're in trouble, they can't win that. So we can see what his tactic is at this stage. It's just going to be produce as many cavalry as possible, and that's the whole point of his game. So he's got 34 now, another 2 coming from there, another 2 coming from there, 2 from there, and he'll just produce as many barracks as he can. Use his 8 fields, which is absolutely a solid amount to get to have a really good source of food, and then just needs to collect as much wood as he can. There's no market or anything and he's still at phase 2. I am still at phase 2 and I don't actually have enough entities of the town class to get going, but I'm going to produce another barracks as well because I need that, and this will be my last required town class structure coming up, and that will give me the opportunity to attack. So I'm on population 128. He's now jumped to 33 ahead, and most of, if not all of those, are actually cavalry as well. He's still, if you look, he's got a tiny number of spearmen, and the only reason that he's got those is because they're required to initiate the building of barracks, albeit they don't have to actually build the barracks themselves. And he's only probably collecting stone and metal purely to get to phase 3, not actually even to build anything, although he'll probably want rams at some stage and they will cost metal. And so here's some houses out the front which act as a nice blocking mechanism. So looking at my base now, this is there because I've just got, I've only got one woman actually in amongst those, but the idea is that these will just harvest some more wood, these guys will get this wood, and at some point these guys are also after stone. Looking at this, if I have a look, I think I've got plenty of stone and metal, I mean a phenomenal amount of stone, and so I should really be jumping to phase 3 because the sooner that I can do that, the sooner I can build a fortress. And so there's my 7 troops. The stone has all run out here. I've got my 7 farms, sorry, and so these 19 spearmen, I mean I follow the same idea that I saw in a different video, where you put all of one type of troop on one material, so either the stone or the metal, and all of another type on the other one, and that way when they're finished it's very easy to just select the whole lot like so, and then you would just say, okay, I just want the spearmen or just want the javeliniers, and then pull those off to a different purpose. So I finally noted that I could move to phase 3 with this phenomenal amount of resources, and I've actually instigated getting there. So at this stage I'm producing, well, I've got 10 cavalry there, I've got another 6 cavalry here, I've got another 20 on the way. Is this another barracks? No, this is a blacksmith, because now I'm looking at getting some upgrades to get them some better armour in the hope that they can produce a pretty devastating attack. But Having said that, I mean, if I was able to go around the side, gosh, there's like 19. There's 19 women, and these 31 women are basically all of his wood production. So it wouldn't be very difficult to completely take that out. And he's putting another couple of fields to make sure that he can absolutely get as much food as possible, because obviously horses cost twice as much food as other soldiers do. And he's also getting a temple in so that he can heal those troops. So he's got, you know, in each of these barracks he's already got 10 raiding cavalry produced, and he's just spamming raiding cavalry. That's going to be his approach, just get as many as he can, and then presumably come for a large scale attack, which if he's attacking with, you know, 70 or 80, you're going to get plenty of attacks out of 70 or 80 cavalry. They're going to cause a lot of damage. So in order to defend against that, I have produced a fortress here, which is pretty well positioned to defend things. And I've got also this hero who gives all my cavalry extra armour, which will be very helpful. Plus I've got the blacksmith now, so that will also be able to provide extra armour, although I've not gone for it yet. So 30 cavalry there, and looking at each of these, we've got some pikemen who are able to defend against cavalry, seeing he's got cavalry, and spearmen also defend well against cavalry. And now just got rid of that house. And if you look from my perspective, I actually had, I was unaware that he had anything here, because if I had been aware, I could easily have sent my cavalry round and they would have just massacred those. That would just have been it. So in comes a rush from him. Let's have a look what this is. That is 68 cavalry, as I'm attempting to build a military colony here. So the plan was that these would defend the things after the hero first and foremost, because the hero gives the bonus in the armour. But you can see, I mean, he's got 59, he's only lost 10. I had plenty. Okay, and what I really need to do is get these. If we look, these are not being utilised. As soon as this happened, these barracks should have been producing troops, but now I've got the military colony there. All I need to do is garrison that, and it has been garrisoned. Unfortunately, it's been garrisoned with the very same horses that I desperately need to get to actually defend myself. But these guys, coupled with the garrisoned the military colony, should be able to take these horses down. And as you can see, they are going down quite quickly, although I've lost a phenomenal amount of troops there. So they are so close to being dead, but they're not. And now I've realised that I had cavalry here all along, so they have come out to do better attacking, and it's still just, the volume is insane. And I finally started producing some more cavalry, but these, again, until you get a reasonable number, I don't know why this is firing in such a limited way. So yeah, that is, I mean, you can see how close to death these are, but he's pulled them all back, and what I desperately need to do now is get a fortress built here. If we look at the thing, I'm down to 135, he's on 203, and it's now that I've started producing. It's far too late. So these three should have been set to, with this amount of food, to basically constant production. And what's really clear is that I absolutely need to get some things in to defend this, because that was a catastrophic thing. I assume that he's gone for, he has indeed. So he's got the upgrade that allows you to heal your cavalry inside the barracks, so these that were all on the cusp of death are now back up to 100%, and up comes his fortress. So these guys are going to build. I've got a second fortress coming up here. I have a tower, and at this stage, and this is another fortress presumably, yeah, and the key thing is going to be, can I get this built in time, because they take so long to build. And he is going to be, if we look from his point of view, okay, he can't see that, but he's just going to be producing cavalry, and he's already back up to another 60, and very sensibly from him has just, even though these are all full of cavalry, so, or not all of them, but he's got 10 cavalry in there, he's going to have a phenomenal amount of cavalry, and he is also dedicating actually very few people to building that fortress, which is interesting. But this fortress here and this fortress give me a very strong attacking point here. It's going to be quite difficult for him to break through, so all what I really need to be doing now is also getting some towers up, you know, perhaps building a line of houses along here to slow his attack, because now that he has this fortress, although I'm not aware of it, if I were to, I mean, these guys are just going to go and start getting some materials. Off come his huge volume of cavalry, but then I also send a lot of cavalry myself, and what I need to do is get all these people as much as possible inside. Like these, yeah, these should both be full, basically. If we were to stand a chance in this, they need to be both full, and unfortunately the one place they really need to be, my people are all trying to get inside this tower rather than just getting inside the fortress, which if they were to do so would do them. So you can see he's got that, but not only that, look at this brutal production levels while I'm trying to produce, but for only 3 barracks as opposed to 8, we've got absolutely no chance of like standing up against them. So what I should really do is pull these guys back and get them into that fortress, which I believe they're going into now, and indeed they are, and that should mean that he's now in a very difficult position. He can't really actually do very much with these, so all I need to do is put my guys inside, which is exactly what happens, and he tries to take down some houses and things, but yeah, if these were actually had any upgrades whatsoever, they would take out his horses, and all, like, unfortunately my horses all run straight past his, which isn't particularly good, and what I need to do is get my swordsman out here to actually stop these rams, and for some reason they are not doing that. They're just, oh no, they're finally coming, but unfortunately far too slow, and yeah, I just took too long to react to that, and with that being gone, this is, you know, virtually over. With his supporting fire of so many horsemen, are we actually going to, yeah, one of the rams does get taken down. So if we look at his resources, he's struggling for wood actually, and so he's not able to produce as many more, and so if I could just have got this horse, and I'm desperately trying to get some people out there to actually get that. Unfortunately, this look at that, it's so frustrating. They just come out, and instead of doing what they need to do, which is take down the ram, they go and attempt to attack the horses. It's just too late. This is going to fall because we can't stop the ram, which is just, yeah, unbelievably frustrating. But that's one of the problems with Seleucids. They are, in terms of being able to defend themselves against rams, absolutely shocking. So the only real troops that you've got that give anything of value against rams are the I've forgotten what they're called, are the swordsmen, and they're only produced from the military colony. So with that gone, it's now, he's very cleverly just gone and got some wood in exchange for stone, because he's got no more wood. And so at this stage, these troops are all going in the wrong direction. They need to stop them pulling down. I've got plenty of troops, and they're just stood there rather than taking down the rams, which means that that's going to fall. And so I quit. But actually looking at it, he was so short of wood and was struggling to get wood, it actually wasn't as lost as I thought. I had so much in the way of resources. If I had just had a decent amount of swordsmen that could have defended those positions against the rams, I probably would have gone on to win, because he didn't actually have the potential to replenish a lot of his resources. If we just I'm looking at that from his point of view. Okay, you can't see, so I know there was definitely a hell of a lot more there than I was aware. But it wasn't as lost as I first thought. So perhaps I should have carried on. But it just goes to show, I mean, that was a phenomenal number of cavalry, and it made me realise that 3 barracks is just not remotely enough. If I had had 8 barracks, much like he did, all lined up maybe around here, it would have stopped him from getting to the fortresses, but it would have just given me far, far more opportunity to actually send cavalry into the fight, because his 14 barracks by the end of it, just sending things at a phenomenal rate. So what did I learn from the game? One is have a hell of a lot more barracks when you're in that point, because it makes the difference. Basically, me sending 6 horses at a time is not the same as him sending, 14 times 3 is 42. Yes, it is. So I'm sending, for every time that I'm sending 6 horses into the fight, he's sending 42 horses into the fight. You can see why we're not able to compete. And the other thing is that early on, that cavalry rush that I did to begin with was pretty brutal. He wasn't trying to actually defend it. I could have just kept harassing him and actually stopped him from getting a reasonable amount of wood if I had just done that earlier, and he wouldn't have actually had a chance against that. So thank you for watching. I did learn a lot from this game, and I think it's made me, hopefully, a better player. So if you enjoy it, then let me know, and I'll see you next Sunday for the next instalment. Cheers.